I will call the special common council meeting to order. Tuesday, November 11th, 6:30 PM. Can I have a roll call, please?
Frisbel,
Here.
Boyd, here, Nigber,
Here.
Hill,
Here.
Stubby, here, Sorensen,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. We do not have any virtual attendees. On to number 3, which is the City of Berlin the City of Berlin's 2026 budget presentation.
So within your packet, you have the colored versions of all the different budgets that make up the budget, all different department budgets, and they should be the same colors as the last version, so if you're comparing and everything. But our 2026 budget. So if you go to the next slide.
Oh, sorry, I can.
So what I'm planning to do is do a little bit of an overview, talk about the levy and the spending breakdown, the revenues, and then our preliminary audit findings, which will be updated during the regular meeting with the actual audit findings. So, Amber Egbert is here for that presentation in a bit. But, next slide. So one of the biggest things for this budget is according to state statute, you're supposed to list both your expenditures and revenues in your budget resolution that is adopted. And so this year, we show both our budget expenditures and our budget revenues, so therefore, there are no unbudgeted funds needed or revenues that are not shown. My assumption for previous years is that the anticipation was that you would use reserve funds to cover revenues that were not actual budgeted, but so there are your totals. Next slide. So this shows the difference between what was levied last year and what will be levied this year. So for the mill rate went up 63 cents. And with that 63 cents, what that means is for every $100,000 of value that a home has, they'll see a $63 increase for the city's portion of their taxes. So I don't know what their total tax bill will be because obviously we have the county and the school district and the technical school included in that as well. So this is just for the city portion.
Are you ready? Sorry.
That's fine. For levy and spending breakdown, now these numbers actually go back to last year because again, I don't have all of the mill rates for each of the different taxing jurisdictions. But I wanted to point out that I think most people are aware, but when you pay your tax bills to the city of Berlin, you are actually paying for 4 different districts. You're not just paying your city of Berlin taxes. You're paying Green Lake County or Washington County, if you live in Washington County, the Berlin School District, and Marine Park Technical College. So the city of Berlin collects all the property taxes for all of these taxing jurisdictions, at least the first payment. So any taxes that you pay through January 31st of next year will be collected by the city. Of course, you can elect to do 2 installment payments, and that second payment would then be collected by Green Lake County or Washington County. So the overall breakdown of our levy and spending, the property tax levy is just over 2.7 million. We are taking out debt of just under 300,000. And then tax equivalent, so basically what the utilities are paying back to the city for their services because they don't actually pay property taxes on the facilities and grounds that are operated. Other taxes and special assessments that brings up our total of what will be collected. So this shows the breakdown by department. So our largest departments, of course, are our Public Works Department, which takes care of streets, parks, all those types of things. And then your Police Department, Public Safety. And the city wide are things that attribute to all departments. It is also broken down by fund, which is what is also shown on the resolution that you adopt for the budget. These are the different areas that by statute it asks us to break down, so I think so that people can compare from budget to budget and city to city how things are spent. So again, public safety and public works are the largest portions, and then of course, debt service. For the revenue picture, things come in for the different departments based on grants, state aids, all kinds of other things. So besides the levy, we are anticipating just over $3.7 million in revenue. So about 2.7 coming in through the property tax and about 3.7 coming in from all other sources. So this year, the council, of course, discussed things to try to improve the revenue picture. As you are aware, the city is limited on our ability to raise revenues by state statute through the levy. So the municipal vehicle registration fee or the wheel tax was implemented. It will go into effect January 1. It's on the Department of Motor Vehicles website already, it's listed there. So that $25 fee per vehicle will go into effect January 1 of this coming year. The capital improvement plan has been adopted, although we have not took out the spending or borrowing for that at this time, but kind of laid the groundwork for about $2 million every other year, $1 million a year in spending to try to make a dent in the capital needs of the city. And then increased employee contribution to the employer health provided health insurance benefits. Instead of having a specific contribution amount, a dollar amount, the city moved to a percentage, which this year is at 7.5% of the insurance premium being paid by the employee. Next year, we're hopeful that we will be ready to implement a recycling fee. The recycling fee would allow us to take that off of the levy and move it to a separate fee on the tax bill, which would open up a little bit of levy space for other needs of the city. So the preliminary the preliminary audit findings basically show that the net position from 2023 to 2024 had very little change. Things kind of were, very similar to the year before, both in fund balances and in the net position and in the fund balances, which, like I said, we'll have more detail for in the next meeting. With the audit, as I've said previously, 2025 this year is where some of our needing to go into our savings and reserves has come into play, not 2024. So, are there any questions, concerns, or anything that you would like me to go over regarding the budget prior to the public hearing? Okay, turn it back over to the mayor.
Okay. All right, then on to number 4, which is the public hearing on the City of Berlin 2026 budget. Oh,
Is there anyone wishing to speak?
is this one? I don't even have my notes up here on this one. Do I have to ask it 3 times?
Yes.
This is the first one I've had to do this one. Is there anybody wishing to speak in 4 of the budget? Anyone wishing to speak for the budget? Anyone wishing to speak for the budget? Anyone wishing to speak against the budget? Anyone wishing to speak against the 2026 budget? Anyone wishing to speak against the 2026 budget? If not, then I'll close the hearing. On to number 5, which is the resolution number 25-13, adopting the 2026 budget and setting the property tax levy for 2025, collectible in 2026. The recommendation here is to approve the adoption of the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of resolution number 25-13, adopting the 2026 budget and setting the property tax levy for 2025, collectible in 2026.
Second.
Motion by Terry, second by Victoria. Can I have a roll call, please?
Griswold,
Aye.
Voigt,
Aye.
Nigber,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Stubby,
Aye.
Sorensen.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. Move on to number 6, which is the adjournment of this meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Victoria, second by Sam.
Sure.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. We're gonna take just a quick break before we roll into the next meeting.
6:23.
Yes, sorry. 6:43 adjourned.
Do we just have
Good here. All right, we will call the common council meeting to order Tuesday, November 11th, 2025 at 6:46 PM. Can I have a roll call, please?
Griswold,
Here.
Boyd. Here. Nigber.
Here.
Hill.
Here.
Stubby.
Here.
Sorensen.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. See virtual attendees, we don't have any tonight. Number 3 is general public comments. Just a reminder that there is a 3-minute limit per person. Chris, we'll start with you. You can state your name and your address, please.
Good evening, my name is Chris Kalupa. Home address is N9104 South Road, Berlin, Wisconsin. I'm actually here on behalf of the library board. They asked me to read a little thank you on behalf of their appreciation for the Department of Public Works. To the Berlin Council and Mayor Burgess. We'd like to extend a special thank you to the Berlin City Maintenance staff for the prompt and extraordinary services to the library on October 1st. The Berlin City crew, and especially Scott, went above and beyond in responding to the plumbing emergency at the library. Their quick response to Director Kalupa allowed the library to reopen quickly and continue service to our patrons. And it assigned Berlin Public Library Board of Trustees with each of their names. So just wanted to do an extra thank you because we really appreciate that. I did extend this to Scott as well and asked him if he wanted to be here. I don't have his exact words, but it was basically in our normal duties, and we very much thank you for the appreciation. So if that doesn't sound like Scott. So anyway, just wanted to express that and thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ruth Sussman? Okay. I will give you a 2.5 minutes, so 30-second warning. If you can start with your name and your address, please.
My name is Ruth Sussman. My address is 218 South Wabash, Chicago, Illinois, 60604. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Ruth Sussman, and I'm here from Unite Your Local 1, Chicago's Hospitality Workers Union. We're here to discuss the boycott of Farmers and Merchants Bank of Berlin. Farmers and Merchants Bank of Berlin has loaned millions of dollars to an Illinois and Texas-based company called Level X Group. Level X Group's holiday in Chicago downtown locked out union workers over Labor Day weekend. The lockout meant that housekeepers, many of whom have children that rely on them to make ends meet, could not work until the lockout ended. Workers are back to work at the hotel now, but they still don't have a contract, as has been the case for over 2 years. Union workers are still fighting for job protections if the hotel is sold. So the question is, should money from this community be going to this hotel in Chicago? Why is Farmers and Merchants Bank of Berlin loan so much money to this kind of company? And does the city of Berlin use Farmers and Merchants Bank? If so, we encourage the city of Berlin to honor the boycott and choose another bank for any of its banking services. We also hope that you would help us encourage the rest of the Berlin community to stand with union workers and choose another bank. Thank you again for your time and for the opportunity to speak, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so we don't typically address public comments, but I feel strongly on this one tonight that it deserves a response. I personally feel the need to address this tonight as I've been pretty silent since you guys have started harassing the community early this year. As mayor, excuse me, I need to be very clear. The message your group has brought here tonight is not welcome in our community. The organization you're speaking against, the bank you're targeting, has been a long-standing valued partner to this city. Farmers and Merchants Bank have invested in our businesses, supported our schools, and helped countless families and local organizations succeed. They are an asset to this community, not a problem to be solved. Your attempt to discredit or divide does not reflect the values of the city or its residents. We are a community built on cooperation, mutual respect, and partnership, and we will always stand with those who have shown that same commitment to us. I will not allow this council chambers or the city to be used as a platform for messages that promote division or harm the relationships that sustain our town. So let me be absolutely clear. Your efforts are misplaced and your messages are not supported here, nor wanted. Your attempts to force your agenda into our town will not succeed. Our residents see through it and they reject it. We will continue to stand with those who contribute to our community, not with those who try to tear it apart. All right, on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which staff considers to be routine and have already been discussed and recommended by committee. Does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Terry, second by Victoria. Roll call, please.
Frisbee,
Aye.
Boyk,
Aye.
Nigber.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Stubby.
Aye.
Sorensen.
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you. On to number 10. I feel like this is finally here. The 2024 audit presentation. Recommendation is listen to the presentation by Hawkins Ash CPAs regarding the 2024 audit of the city's finances, and then discussion and action as appropriate. Come on up.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber Ebert from Hawkins Dash CPAs. I will be going through, I believe it was the top report. It says summary and financial report. So if you want to flip through as I go through it. So page 1 is just the table of contents. Page 2, this is our independent auditor's report. This is just standard verbiage that we follow, basically just stating we issued an unmodified audit opinion, which is the best opinion for an audit. You can jump forward to page 4. This is the combined balance sheets. So looking at the total assets, this is comparing current year to prior year, well, 2023 to 2024. So total assets increased by 3.3 million. This is due to the way the new software is set up. So in the past, there was what was called a common cash account where any money would transfer in between the cash accounts. The software no longer allows that. So now everything is going through a due to from account. So that's really the only reason for this increase. So the due from increase, it was 267,000 last year and 3.2 million this year. And then for the total deferred outflows, the WRS decreased 156,000 from last year. This also just varies. It really just depends on how WRS calculates everything for the year. So some years it might be up, some years it might be down. It really just depends. And then overall, total assets and deferred outflows increased about 3.1 million from last year. Total liabilities, same thing. The due to other funds went from 267,000 to 3.2 million. The deferred inflows of resources decreased about 345,000. This was due to about $300,000 decrease in the taxes levied for subsequent year. This also just varies depending on how much taxes are collected before year end. And then for the equity, total equity increased about 778,000. So the net position, which would be the water and sewer funds, that remained pretty comparable to last year. General fund increased about 521,000 from last year. And then a combination of all the other funds increased 205,000. So page 5 is the general fund revenues. This is showing the budget and actual of 2024 and then comparing to 2023 actual. So overall, the taxes increased about 65,000 from last year. Special assessments increased 2,600. Intergovernmental increased 257,000. Regulation, which for licenses and permits increased 16,000. And then fines, forfeits, and penalties increased 44,000. Charges for services, the public charges for services increased 52,000, and the intergovernmental charges for services increased 248,000. Miscellaneous increased 80,000. This would be mostly interest related. And then other financing sources, the transfers in increased 391,000, and then sale of capital assets decreased 8,700. So overall, total revenues from last year increased 1.1 million. and you received $879,000 more than what was budgeted. The next page is just a chart, breaking it down in a pie chart of how the revenues were received. So intergovernmental was about 42.1% of revenues received, taxes and special assessments about 32.7%, and then other financing sources is 12.3% as the top three. Page 6 shows the general fund expenditures. So the general government increased $517,000, public safety increased $95,000, public works decreased $32,000, health and human services decreased $20,000, culture, recreation, and education decreased $68,000, conservation and development increased $45,000, and then other financing uses, which would be the transfer out, decreased $57,000. So overall, total expenditures increased about $480,000 from last year. And overall, the city spent $74,000 less than budgeted, but as part of the audit, we do not take into consideration the transfer out portion. So technically, the city spent $45,000 more than what was budgeted, which in the financial, you'll see we have a non-compliance with laws and regulations. This is due to not being allowed to, a Wisconsin statute says you can't overspend your budget. It really doesn't mean anything, but that's just, we have to report it. So that's why you'll see that in the financial. And then the next page is the expense pie chart. So public safety was number 1 at 29.2%, public works at 23.1%, and then general government at 20.3%. Page 7 is the water and sewer revenue and expense comparison. So the left 3 are the sewer, and then the right 3 are water. Overall, charges for services decreased for sewer and increased for water. Operating expenses increased for both. Operating income decreased for both. The non-operating revenue and expenses increased for both. Transfers out increased for both. And then capital contributions is only on the water side, and this decreased. Last year had the lead service line, so that's what that was mostly for last year. Overall, the change in net position for the sewer fund was down $359,000 from last year. So overall, the net position at end of year was down about $142,000. And for the water side, it was up $194,000. Now this is pretty much only related to software. It was unknown how much cash should be allocated between the water fund and the sewer fund. So for the audit, we kept it all in the sewer, knowing that in 2025, they have been keeping track of what should be, how much should be in the water and how much should be in the sewer. So that will correct itself going forward. So basically, the water fund is just gonna owe the sewer fund in 2025. So it'll kind of balance itself out. So the next page, you can kind of see the sewer fund had a decrease in operating income when normally they all have an increase, but when you combine the two, it's a pretty comparable comparison to the prior years. And then page 8 is the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund balance for all of the other funds. So I'll just quickly go through those. The CDBG housing grant increased $28,000 for the fund balance. The ambulance fund decreased $106,000. Revolving loan increased $89,000. Debt service decreased $214,000 as it now has a 0 fund balance. American Rescue remained at a 0 fund balance. Senior special account increased $28,000. Cemetery expendable trust decreased $12,000. Library expendable trust increased $207,000. Capital projects increased $375,000. TID 10 increased $288,000 to a 0 fund balance. TID 01E increased $3,100. TID 02E increased $7,300. TID 15 decreased $22,000. Custodial fund remained a 0 fund balance. Library endowment fund remained a zero fund balance, and then the internal service fund, which we closed out this year, now has a zero fund balance. So overall, there was an increase of 205,000 if you combine all of the funds. And then the last chart is just a comparison of the general and other fund balances. So as you can see, they have remained a steady increase the last 2 years. And then page 9, so the independent auditor's report, as I mentioned, we issued an unmodified audit opinion, which is the best opinion for an audit. And then we just like to mention that the financials are presented fairly and materially correct. Overall, cash and investments increased 1.2 million. For the fixed assets, the city spent 1.7 on the general side and 818 on the sewer and water side. They disposed 242,000 on the general side and disposed 4,100 on the sewer and water side. Long-term debt, at year end, there was 5.8 million. This is below the statute of 21.4 million. And then there was also 432,000 of water debt and 1.2 million of employee benefits. So this would be compensated absences, WRS, things like that. And then the auditor's report on compliance and internal control over financial reporting. This is just stating that the city's internal controls appear adequate for a city of your size. And then lastly, the communication with those charged with governance and management advisory comments. So we did add some management advisory comments this year. Timeliness of requested audit items. This was just missing due dates in our PBC list, which is kind of why we are in the position we're in. When due dates aren't met, we can't work on the audit. Reconciling cash accounts. There were 14 bank accounts that had no 2024 activity recorded. So these were also not reconciled. It was, I guess, not set up in the software, so it was unknown that this should have been done. So we had to report that as an audit adjustment, which added up to 4.5 million. Tax roll, the year-end transactions were not recorded. Written year-end closing procedures. A lot of the year-end wrap-up steps were missed. So last year there were 33 auditor entries, which added up to a total of 5.5 million. This year there were 90 auditor entries for a total of 47.6 million. And then taxi grant claim forms were not filed on time, so the payments were received in 2025 instead of 2024. So I know you're probably all wondering what caused the delay. So as I mentioned, there were a lot of transactions that we had to record on the auditor end. New software, things weren't set up such as payables, receivables, cash reconciliations, things like that. Obviously the turnover of staff. And then just not receiving the audit items on time. Otherwise, that's all I have. Any questions?
I just want to make a statement that there was a lot of things that weren't received on time. It wasn't for, I just want to support you guys and say, make sure I'm saying this in the correct way, that it wasn't just because we were behind, it was because we weren't able to access a lot. Is that correct? And I just want to make that clear that it sounds like we just didn't give the stuff in a timely manner, or when it was asked of us, but it was obviously an issue with, the turnover, the software. I just want to make, because it sounds like we're awful and that we're just behind on everything, and that was not the case at all. So I just want to make sure that that is clear with everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely mostly.
There was many, yes, yep. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. Can you help me understand, when you mentioned that the cash account had to be transferred out, is that what you're talking about when you talk about the transfers out? When you're calculating transfers out, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's basically moving cash between the different funds. So you could either really do it as like a due to from, or like a due to from would be you still owe it. The transfer is actually physically moving at the time. And on the old software, there was basically one one main cash account that hit every single fund. So it would just transfer right into cash. The software doesn't allow that to happen anymore. So now it is getting run through the B2 from
Okay,
instead of the
thank you.
other way.
Change in software, okay, got it.
Any other questions? Anything else for us?
That's all I have. Thank you guys.
Thank you very
Thank you for the
much.
hard work. I know it was very hard.
We made it through.
All right, so we are looking for, you need to accept it, right? You want the,
Yes, please.
we're looking for a motion to accept the audit then.
I'll make a motion to accept the 2024 audit.
I'll second.
Motion by Josh, second by Sam. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. On to number 11, which is the special events on streets, highways, and municipal parking lots permit for Achieving a Better Community, Inc. for the holiday parade on November 20th. The recommendation is to approve the special events on street, highways, and municipal parking lots permit for the ABC group for the holiday parade, starting near the Aquatic Center, on Webster Street to Brooklyn Street to Broadway Huron Street, ending at Church Street, from about 6:30 to 8. Does anybody have any questions on that? Otherwise, we're looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the special events on streets, highways, and municipal parking lots permit for the Achieving a Better Community, Inc. for the holiday parade.
I'll second.
Motion by Terry, second by Sam. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That's also a reminder to any older persons that wanted to be in the parade, to let the ABC group know, or you know.
Chris.
Chris, let Chris know, sorry. So they can have your signs ready for you.
Do you guys have signs that are already made up? Or no, they would have to be made up?
I'll make them.
Oh, okay.
I'll personalize them.
They're just like a laminated
Personalize. Well.
older person principal is what it was.
I'll take it.
Or something to that tune. Okay, on to number 12, accept the proposal for 2025-2029 audit services. Recommendation is accept the proposal of Kerber Rose to provide audit services for years ending December 31st, 2025 to December 31st, 2029.
Myself and Deputy Clerk Treasurer Debbie Thiel and Alderperson Stubby came together and went through all of the proposals. We received 7 proposals. And after going through and looking at the scope and all the things that we were supposed to look at, and then bringing in the cost proposal, we felt that Kerber Rose provided a proposal that was most advantageous at this point for the cost. Are there any questions?
I'm happy to go with the recommendation of the group.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to go through that. I'll make a recommendation to accept the proposal of Kerber Rose to provide audit services for the years ending December 31st, 2025 to December 31st, 2029.
I'll second.
Motion by Terry, second by Victoria. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And also thank you to Hawkins and Ash for a lot of years,
Yes.
many years of service. Thank you.
Yes, I believe it's been more than 20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Got the city through a lot.
and after this year, they may be ready to Just kidding. Thank you again. Okay, on to number 13, which is approve the application to the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands for a loan of $130,000 through the trust funds of the state of Wisconsin and approve resolution 25-14, approving a loan through the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands, trust funds of the state of Wisconsin for acquisition of 169 Ribbon Road. And the recommendation is to approve the application to the Board of Commissioners.
Yes, I'd like to note for the record that you received a copy of the packet and resolution prior to this meeting, because otherwise we need to actually physically read that resolution. out loud. So if someone would like to read it, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I think as long as we note that you received it in advance and had opportunity to read it, that we are covering that requirement. I did want to note, as is stated in here, the purchase price, of course, is more than the 130. We are planning to use some EMS funds that came in from our town contracts to offset that a bit so that we don't have so much to carry interest on. This was the plan, which is why that number doesn't match. We anticipate closing on that property in early December.
I'll make a motion to approve the application to the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands for the borrowing noted in Resolution 2514 and approve Resolution 2514 in the preamble authorizing the borrowing of $130,000 from the trust funds of the state of Wisconsin for the purpose of financing property acquisition for EMS department. The loan to be payable within 10 years.
I will second.
Motion by Victoria, second by Sam. Can I have a roll call, please?
Frisbee,
Aye.
Voigt,
Aye.
Nickver,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Stubby,
Aye.
Sorensen.
Aye. Motion passed. Thank you. On to number 14, which is purchase fund accounting software annual support for Banyan. Recommendation is approve the quote for $865 for 1 year of software support to allow the city to access financial records and run reports on data. We're not done with them yet, no.
So,
To me, we're not done.
okay.
No,
so-
Banyan, I mean, our old,
With Banyan. So Banyan was our previous software utilized through 2023. And I believe there was some overlap in 24, but we moved to AccuFund in 2023. When we moved to AccuFund, 2024. When we moved to AccuFund in 2024, we continued to utilize Banyan, but we stopped paying the service contract for it. So basically, our data is still there, and at that time, we could continue to run reports and everything, so our data's on the computer. The problem is that as other things update, like Word and Microsoft and all those things, it starts chipping away at how the computer runs and how our access is, and since we don't have that support contract, we don't get the updates and the fixes and things automatically. So we can no longer access the data. At this point, we can get to the utility version, but we cannot get to payroll or accounts payable. I've spoken to Banyan, and they can see the data there, and if we do a service contract, then they will initiate everything and get us back to being able to access that data. I talked to Computer Network Solutions a little bit about the possibility of just pulling that data out. We would have to find somebody to do that. And to be honest, I'm a little worried that if we do that, it will, just save it. Then we have the numbers, which we need, and is better than our current situation not being able to access them. But running reports and stuff is not, it's not going to be very usable data at that point. So our options, which I will have to explore, are to get this contract and then see if we can pull all of the data back years out and dump it into AccuFund, or continue to have the support system so that we can run this until such time as we no longer need those records, which I believe is at least 7 years. And that data is through 2023. So at this point, not exactly sure which route is going to work the best and make sense, but I do know that we've got to access this data. So it's almost $900 for us to get to the data that is on our system.
in a year to do so.
And a year to do so. And to decide if we're going to continue with the service contract or if there's a better way to do that.
I would highly recommend seeing if there's a way to export the data or find out if if AccuFund can, even if you pay them a stipend, if they would find a way to create a transport program, the import program from Banyan over to them.
Right, that we have to figure that out, because ideally, all of the data being dumped into AccuFund so you can continue to run all of those reports makes perfect sense. I am not comfortable at this point promising that that's
I was going to
doable.
I was going to say that I don't I wouldn't hold your breath on that one.
But
Well, I'm
it makes
familiar, I mean, I go
perfect- it
from
makes
software to
perfect sense.
software in other organizations.
Well,
and
just our history,
Pretty much
with
a-
Ag Fund.
And it's been pretty much a manual data entry process in a lot of program-to-program swaps. Is that something that's even possible, like having somebody dedicated to just manually entering data? Or is that really, we're talking way too many thousands of pieces of information?
I think it's gonna be overwhelming in that you're talking, so if we have to go back 7 years and we've got 2 years in active fund, I mean, that's 5 years at least worth of data.
Yeah.
For every financial transaction that was made.
Okay.
So I mean, it would be, I don't know those numbers, but just in my mind, that's significant.
Okay.
So, I mean, it would, yeah.
I was just
No, I
exploring the
appreciate the
option,
question.
yeah.
Appreciate, and I don't have good answers at this point, I just know that we need to be able to access the data.
Can I ask a dumb question then? If we have to access this data and we have to pay them for access to the data, why are we paying a second to have data elsewhere? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why aren't we just continuing on with Banyan?
Well, we stopped using Ganyan in 2020, at the end of 2023. So if we were gonna do that, we would have to take all of 24 and 25 and put it in Ganyan.
Okay, I understand. So I was just wondering,
Yeah, there's
what
no-
was the reasoning for the move?
Correct, I wasn't here at that time.
Okay,
My understanding, and you know more than I do, council, is more that I think there was some concern that Banyan may not be supported into the future. They were worried about, if
It wasn't
it's gonna
keeping up
stay.
with what we needed from them,
Okay.
is what we were told. I believe that it just wasn't fitting the bill anymore, we needed to go with someone else.
thanks for catching me up. I wasn't here for that either.
Thank you.
I don't think anything of this software stuff has been easy in the last,
It never is. It never is.
it's caused a lot of problems.
Yes.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve that $865.
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the quote for $865 for 1 year of software support to allow the city to access financial records and run reports on the data.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 15, old business. Does anybody have any old business to be brought forward? Number 16, any new business? And number 17?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Ooh, Missy has it.
Motion by Terry, second by Missy, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 7:19.
All right.